everybody, Chris the Old Ass Retro Gamer here. Today I'm going to talk about my PlayStation 2 games that I have in my collection. It's probably my third favorite console of all time, right behind the Dreamcast and the Super Nintendo, which is my all-time favorite. And when it came time to sell my collection, when I had lost my job a few years back, I kept a good number of my PlayStation 2 games. There were some I just did not want to part with. And for good reason, because they were really good games, and my PlayStation 3 was, backwards compatible. At least the model I had was, and I just didn't want to part with them. I was just like, no, I'll sell all the other ones that I don't really feel that I need to keep, and I'll just keep these specific ones. And there's some good ones in here. And I am finding that now that I'm collecting again, that they are the easiest games to find, and usually the most inexpensive. I find PlayStation 2 games everywhere I go. Pawn shops, music shops, bookshops, everywhere you go, there's always something. And I usually find good stuff, and really cheaply. So collecting for this is super easy, and I'm liking it. I've found some cool shit. So let's get into it. Starting off with the Activision Anthology. Yes, this is a bunch of the Activision Atari 2600 games that came out back in the 80s. It's a good emulator. The interface is pretty cool. It's kind of like an old school kid's bedroom from the 80s with like a cartridge rack that spins and you pick the game you want. Activision is one of my favorite companies when it came to the 2600, so there's a lot of good stuff on here. Alone in the Dark. It's a remake of the old Alone in the Dark games. I got this in a lot that I got off of Amazon, actually. It wasn't really a lot. I purchased a bunch from one specific buyer. He was selling a bunch of games for a penny, and this was one of the ones I got. I got a ton from him. Haven't played it yet, as it's still unopened. The Atari Anthology. This is a bunch of Atari 2600 games by Atari, like Asteroids and Centipede and all that. There's 85 games on here. Yeah. Good classic stuff. One of my all-time favorite games, it's Blood Rain. I remember when this game first came out, I didn't have the PS2 version, I had the GameCube version. And I would look forward to coming home from work every day because I was trying to pace myself so I wouldn't beat it too soon. And I would beat one level a day, and every day I would look forward to coming home so I could do it because I loved playing this game so much. So much fun. The Bouncer is kind of an unexpected game from Squaresoft. No one really thought they'd ever do a brawler, but they did. And, it isn't half bad. The graphics are pretty cool, and it does have a lot of really badass cutscenes. Burnout Revenge. If you've played any Burnout game, you know what this is all about. My favorite is actually Part 3. I don't own that yet. Capcom Classics Collection, Volume 1. It has Street Fighter and Ghosts and Goblins and a bunch of the, 1942 Mercs Commando. A lot of really classic arcade games in here. Pretty awesome stuff. I like the old retro collection discs, like Capcom Classics Collection Volume 2, which is not opened yet. I purchased this not too long ago. Has Street Fighter 2 Turbo, I do believe, or maybe it's Super Street Fighter 2. I'm not sure. But it has like Strider on here and a bunch of other classic arcade games. Castlevania Lament of Innocence. This is the 3D game that brought Castlevania back to life. I remember after the Nintendo 64 versions, people were just kind of like, yeah, Castlevania's dead. This is the one that made everybody take notice. Champions of Norath. This game is in the EverQuest universe, and it's a dungeon crawler like Diablo. A lot of fun. I remember playing this with a bunch of friends. We'd have like multiplayer nights, and that was some rad shit right there. Contra Shattered Soldier. The one that also brought Contra back from the dead as far as I was concerned, because there was a bunch of PlayStation 1 games that were released that were absolute shit. But this one is the one that made it a name again as far as I was concerned. It's super hard, but damn, the music and the gameplay is awesome. Crimson Sea 2. It's an RPG. Haven't played it yet because I actually want to get the first one before I play through this. So for obvious reasons, I can't really tell you what it's about. Dark Summit, it's kind of like a snowboarding game, but it has to do with like an alien invasion on a mountain top, I guess. I found it for like $2 at a store. The remake of Defender. Haven't played it yet. I actually got this in a lot off of eBay, an actual lot off of eBay. It was this and I think my Robotech game that I have in here. I haven't played it yet, though, but I hear it is pretty awesome. Dr. Muto, it's a platformer puzzle game. It was reviewed in an episode of Metal Jesus Rocks, and he said that it was like one of his hidden gems. So I said, hey, why not? I'll give it a shot, and I haven't played it yet, though. I got so many goddamn games I gotta play. Yeah. Drakengard. This is one that I refused to sell when I was selling all my gaming stuff. It's by Square Enix, and it is kind of like their version of Panzer Dragoon. The graphics are kind of muddy, but it's a lot of fun, and it's a good game. There was a reason why I didn't want to part with that one, and it's because it's actually a quality title. And then here's a game that every single person had in their collection at some point for one of the major systems at the time. Enter the Matrix. This game got a lot of crap. I never understood why. Every game is buggy. Sometimes it's minor, sometimes it's major. I think the only reason people gave this game so much crap was because it was The Matrix and expectations were super high, just like with the movies, the sequels. But I always loved getting extra insight into the film, and we got to spend time with some of the minor characters, and like the major characters actually came in and out every once in a while. It was a lot of fun, and I loved doing the bullet time stuff in here. My favorite Bond game of all time, 007 Everything or Nothing. The best theme song for one of these games, the best gameplay. It's the gameplay types are varied, and it actually feels like you're playing an interactive James Bond movie, especially because of the fact they got Pierce Brosnan in here before they let him go to bring in Daniel Craig. Awesome game. Next is Evil Dead: Fistful of Boomstick. It's an action game. Pretty cool. It's not the greatest, but I'm a big Evil Dead fan, at least Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. And of course, it's got the chin in it, so you can't go wrong. And that leads me to Evil Dead Regeneration, the next game in the series. There's actually 3. There's one for the PlayStation, one called Hail to the King. This one you get like a little sidekick dwarf guy, which is kind of funny. Lots of one-liners and whatnot, but it's Bruce Campbell. I mean, how could you not want it? They're not the greatest games ever made, but they're pretty cool. I mean, it's cool if you're a fan, like I am. Final Fantasy X, another one that I refused to sell because I hadn't beaten it yet, and I was damn sure I was going to do it before I got rid of it. Awesome game. It does have some issues with the story. I mean, I don't really like the main character. He's kind of a whiny bitch, as far as I'm concerned, but it's Final Fantasy, and this is right before Final Fantasy kind of went off the rails for me. Actually, no, I take that back. This is kind of where it did. Final Fantasy X-2, not a fan of it. I kept it because it was part of Final Fantasy X. The opening cinematic is pretty awesome. I like the song that they play in the opening, but it's really goofy, and it's just kind of like, this is when they really started to milk the games for all they were worth. It's just like, let's not make a new game. Let's just keep reusing stuff from the other ones. This is, as far as I was concerned, the last good Final Fantasy game. Final Fantasy XII, when I have the collector's edition, it's in this really cool, metal packaging. It's pretty awesome. It feels like you're playing an offline version of Final Fantasy XI, which was the MMORPG. The fighting system is very similar to what you would do in the MMO. I should know. I played that for like a good, 9 months with one of my ex-girlfriends. And everyone disliked it at the time, but it's actually, people have grown to really like this one, and I find this one extremely enjoyable. I like this more than I liked Part 10. Forgotten Realms, Demon Stone. It's a dungeon crawler, another one. There was, during the PlayStation 2 and Xbox generation, the dungeon crawlers, pretty much every single one of them that came out was pretty awesome, and that one is pretty good too. Then there's Freedom Fighters, another one that's recommended by Metal Jesus Rocks. I found it for a couple bucks at a store. I haven't played it yet, but it looks pretty badass. I was reading up on it. I saw some video online. I'm looking forward to actually playing that. Frequency. Yes, it's a rhythm game by the people that made Rock Band and the original Guitar Hero. It's kind of like the way DJ Hero is set up. And it's the only game I know where you have BT and Fear Factory on the same disc. It's kind of an odd combination, but it's pretty awesome. There's a sequel called Amplitude I've been looking for. Gauntlet Dark Legacy, another dungeon crawler, but this is a port of an arcade game, which I dropped, I don't know how many quarters into back in the day. Loved this game, especially the one before Gauntlet Legends, which I need to find a copy of for my Dreamcast. Pretty awesome game. I like the number of character types you can pick in that game. It's amazing. Gauntlet 7 Sorrows. This one's not quite as good, even though it follows the same vein. It tries to do too much. And it's just, the online is not, I remember not working very well back in the day. But it's Gauntlet, and I'm a Gauntlet fan, so I had to have it. Genji, Dawn of the Samurai. It's a really, really awesome action game. Can't go wrong. A lot of fun. Graphics are amazing. And the story is pretty epic. I really, really like this one a lot. You really need to pick it up if you haven't already and you're collecting. Getaway, got this for about $1. I remember having it back in the day, and it's kind of like a poor man's Grand Theft Auto. It's okay. It's good. It's not great. Goblin Commander. It's a strategy game as far as I can tell. I have not played it yet. Picked it up for a couple bucks at a half-price books. Yes, The Godfather, the game, limited edition. Comes in this really cool foil cover. Picked this up at a store nearby. I've never seen the limited edition. I used to have this, but I did sell it back in the day, and I beat it. It's Grand Theft Auto, but it takes place in, when The Godfather was at the 1950s, I think. I can't remember exactly. The 40s or the 50s. But it's an awesome game. I still haven't played the sequel, but I hear that Godfather Part 2, the game, is not very good. Like this, GoldenEye Rogue Agent. Yeah, it's trying to just get you to buy a game, making you think that it's like a remake of GoldenEye or something, but it's actually really kind of a piss-poor first-person shooter that just kind of uses James Bond. Not their greatest achievement. Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec. I'm not big into racing games, but I got this for like $1 at a game store, so I didn't want to pass that up. But graphics are pretty good for the time that this came out. And I remember everyone I knew that was into racing games back then had this game, and they all bragged about how awesome it was. So I was kind of like, all right, I'll give it a shot. Grim Grimoire RPG by NIS America, or NIS America, depending on how you want to say it. These guys have come a long way. They've got games right now that you have to pre-order on their website. It's the only place you can get them at, and they come in these awesome limited edition collector sets and whatnot. This game is pretty awesome. It's fun. The story's kind of weird, but I really like it. It's a strange JRPG. Here's a game I did not think I was going to be able to get for the price I did, and that's Gun Griffin Blaze, because I've learned when I got back into collecting that anything by Working Designs or anything by Atlas is usually super expensive. Their games are worth a lot. And I found this for $2.50 at a store. So I was pretty happy that I did. It's a mech game, awesome action game, pretty cool. Half-Life. Need to get some of these stickers off of here. I don't need to talk too much about this. It's a game that started off the major storyline-centered first-person shooter series, and the genre itself. I mean, there'd be no Halo if it wasn't for this. It's pretty awesome, even though the port is not as awesome. It has a ton of loading times. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is another series that everyone has at least one of these games in their collection, if not all of them. I found this for like $1. Couldn't pass it up, but it's not a bad action game. Headhunter by Acclaim. This is another action game. It's kind of reminds me a little bit of Grand Theft Auto with like kind of a, sci-fi-ish bent to it. Yeah. Next is Iridium Runners, which is another game I got for a penny from that dude on Amazon. Haven't played it yet. It's still unopened. Katamari Damacy. Yeah, everybody knows what this is. I remember I went to the local GameStop on my lunch break at work, and I saw it sitting on the shelf, and I asked the guy if I could take a look at it. Took one look at the back, and he was like, well, it's only $20. So, it's like a budget title. And I was like, oh, well, it's by Namco. I trust Namco. I'll give it a shot. Brought it home, and everyone I knew wanted to come over and play it. And one of my friends, Elizabeth, was like, we're doing a film project, and she was just kind of like, hang on, let me just try this again. I want to play this a little bit more. So, yeah, it's super fun. And it spawned an entire series of games. Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2. These are pretty awesome. I haven't played Part 2, as you can see, because I've never been able to beat the first one. I would always get stuck at one specific part. I don't remember where it was. But just the fact that it's like Disney characters with, like, Final Fantasy type of RPGing, it's a cool idea. And it's spawned a lot of sequels as well. Lifeline Voice Action Adventure by Konami. You need to have a special microphone to play this game, which I do own. And it's an action survival horror type of game. Pretty cool. It's different. And just the fact that you need that microphone to play the game is kind of a shitty thing, because if you didn't have it and you really wanted to play that game, you had to go and spend I don't know how much money on SOCOM just to get it. Luminous Plus, puzzle game, awesome music. Mad Maestro, another rhythm game, pretty cool, pretty strange. This company, Fresh Games, they made some strange stuff. It was like at the end of the life cycle of the PS2, they had like that, and there's one called like Mad Mosquito or something. Mark of Cree, really awesome action game with really awesome graphics. I've always liked this game, and I'm really looking for the sequel so I can play through them both like in one shot. Maximo, Ghost to Glory. It's kind of like a third-person spin-off of the Ghouls and Ghosts games, or Ghosts and Goblins, depending on which one you like. I remember it being pretty awesome. There's a sequel I need to find for this, too. Medal of Honor Frontline. Supremely awesome game. I think I paid $1 for this at a half-price books. This is the one that... I think this is the last one that they made that was actually really good. This is one with the D-Day invasion at the beginning. It is... Oh, God, it's so cool. Mega Man Anniversary Collection has pretty much every Mega Man game for the Nintendo. And I do believe it has Final Fantasy VIII on here. Maybe one of the X games. Yeah, Mega Man 1 through 8. And 2 never before released in the US games. Does not say what. Yeah, I remember I played through the first 3 on this disc, but I never got any further. But I kept that. I wasn't going to sell that. Mercenaries, Playground of Destruction. It's another Grand Theft Auto ripoff, but this time you're playing as a bunch of obvious mercenaries. And I remember there's a lot of really cool things you can do in this. I was not a fan of the sequel. Midway Arcade Treasures, Midway Arcade Treasures 2, and Midway Arcade Treasures 3. You can tell what they are. Mortal Kombat, Defender, a bunch of 80s games, a bunch of 90s games. Narc's on there. Rush, or San Francisco Rush, Stun Runner. There's a lot of cool stuff on those. This game got no love. My friend Justin actually introduced this to me. He had the GameCube version, if I remember correctly. And he brought it over one day and played it, and I was like, it's actually not that bad. It just happens to be based on a movie that everyone had really high expectations for when it came to the game. That's Minority Report. Not all movie-based games are bad automatically. This one's actually pretty decent. It's fun, and it does stray from the plot of the movie, but it's not a bad game at all. I really enjoy it. It's like a guilty pleasure. Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks Supreme. This is one of the only spin-off Mortal Kombat games that actually ended up being good. If you remember, like Sub-Zero or Mythology Sub-Zero, and then there was like Special Forces. They were really crappy on the PS1. This is the one that got it right. It's awesome. I had so much fun playing this. And I think I beat it like 3 times because I actually liked playing it so much. I was like, when it ended, I just started over. Namco Museum 50th Anniversary has pretty much every one of their 80s arcade games on it. As you can tell, I like those kind of compilations. Need for Speed Underground, really cool Need for Speed game. I was not really big into racing games back when I originally was collecting for the PS2, but nowadays my tastes have changed a little bit, so I'm starting to get into them. Odin Sphere, here's one of those Atlas games. Found this for like $8 at half-price books. I don't think they knew what they had. But then again, I haven't really looked to see how much it costs on eBay, so maybe I could be wrong, and this is just one of the ones that nobody gives a shit about. But it's an RPG, pretty awesome. Graphics are great. Storyline, of course, is strange because it's a JRPG. But when it comes to Atlas or working design stuff, you really can't go wrong. Okami, really cool action game where you control... your controller is actually a paintbrush, and you paint like attacks on the screen. It's a bizarre combination of control stuff and weird art styles and gameplay choices, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, I really, 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 really like this game a lot. Didn't want to get rid of this one either. Oni by Rockstar. Actually, it was developed by Bungie before they did the Halo games. Although it is kind of a generic third-person action game. It is pretty cool. I mean, there's some cool moves you can do. The graphics were not bad for like one of the first-generation PlayStation 2 games. And the main character is pretty neat. I like her a lot. She was kind of sassy. She kicked a lot of ass. Reminds me of Alice from the Resident Evil movies. But really cool game. It really shows that, you know, Bungie was onto something that was going to be big, and that ended up being Halo. And this was the first step to it. Onimusha Dos. You can see that? And Onimusha Trace with Jean Reno. That is the weirdest choice for a game ever. I never thought I'd ever see genre no in a freaking video game. But the Onimusha games are like feudal Japan Resident Evil games, which is pretty awesome, because I love me some Resident Evil. Parappa the Rapper 2, the sequel to the Fatty Boom Batty of video games, according to my brother. Not as good as the first one. The songs aren't as catchy, and the gameplay, it's just... I got bored of it, actually, pretty quickly. Peter Jackson's King Kong. I rented this from Blockbuster when it came out. I was really excited about it because they were saying that like they were pioneering some new techniques for motion capture for video games with this, just like they were doing in the movie. And I rented it and I beat it in a single night, I think within maybe like 2 or 3 hours. So I was kind of disappointed, but I paid like $1 for it, so I didn't really care. The Plan. I got this from that group of games that was a penny. As you can tell, I have not opened any of these yet, so I could not comment on if it was any good or not. Sorry. PsyOps, awesome action game by Midway. Has this really cool telekinetic, mind drain, pyrokinesis angle to it. It's like all these really cool mind tricks you can pull on top of the gunplay and everything else. Awesome game. Super fun. Resident Evil Code Veronica X. This is the anniversary edition, or actually Resident Evil anniversary edition. But yeah, they ported this over from the Dreamcast and gave it some better graphics and some extra puzzles and whatnot, and expanded it a little bit just to make it make more sense. I love this game. It's a lot better than Part 3 as far as I was concerned, because I just thought Part 3 was kind of This one kind of got it back on track, even though it's kind of like a side story. But this is a supremely cool game. One of my favorite ones in the series, actually. Jet Li Rise to Honor. If Jet Li in a game, it's magic. It is. The game has problems with the controls a little bit, and some of the, it's glitchy a little bit. But like I said, with Enter the Matrix, who cares? If it's just cool. You can play as Jet Li. Come on. Here's that Robotech Battle Cry I mentioned earlier. Really cool game based on Robotech. I used to watch Robotech all the time when I was a kid. It is a little hard, and sometimes it's kind of hard to understand what you need to be doing in sections, but it's still Robotech, so it's pretty cool. I like it. Rocky, another one of those movie tie-in games. I don't think did this come out when Rocky Balboa came out? I can't remember. No, it doesn't matter. Anyway, the only reason I bought this game is because one of the characters you can play as in it is Mickey. Yeah, Burgess Meredith. And he has 0 power, so whenever you punch somebody, they just kind of go like, and then with one hit, you're down on the ground. It's pretty awesome, and it's pretty funny. Not that beating up old people is funny, but... R-Type Final, that's one of the last R-Type games that was made. I don't think there have been anything else in this series since. Could be wrong. I might need to do some research. But it's all polygonal now instead of like the hand-drawn sprites and all that. But it is pretty cool because, as you can tell, there are a ton of ships to choose from that you can unlock. Pretty rad. Shaun White Snowboarding. This is another one I got for a penny from that dude on Amazon. Haven't opened it yet. Again. SNK Arcade Classics Volume 1. Yeah. I need to get me a Neo Geo. And until then, this is what ties me over, because it has Magician, Lord, and Metal Slug, and King of the Monsters, and Art of Fighting, and all those awesome games I played all the time when I was when I was a kid in the 90s. SOCOM U.S. Navy SEALs. This is the big box version that comes with that microphone you need to play Lifeline. Yes. Although it's not online anymore, you can still play it first or single player, which is not bad. SOCOM 2, and also SOCOM 3. And there's a fourth one out there I need to find too. Soul Calibur 3, not a very big fan of this one. After the second one, which I thought was amazing, this one just kind of like went backwards a little bit and just kind of underwhelmed me, which is why I never did buy the fifth one, because the fourth one was almost the same, even though it had all the cool Star Wars stuff in it. Soul Reaver 2, this is one of the Legacy of Kain games. I love the Legacy of Kain games. The first one especially for the PlayStation 1, which I need to find. Super bloody, awesome gameplay. I love the character of Raziel that you play in this game. Can't say enough good things about it. Star Ocean Till the End of Time RPG by Square. Yeah, I'm not going to play this until I can get the other games, and they are kind of pricey. So, yeah, I can't really comment on it. Starsky and Hutch, really strange action game that I think was actually a budget title, but it actually ends up being pretty decent because if you want to play it two-player, player 1 plays as the driver of the car, and player 2 uses a light gun and shoots at the enemies that you're chasing, which is kind of a cool idea. And they pull it off pretty well. But then again, I don't have a TV that you can play it on, so it's kind of lost on me. Star Trek Conquest. This is a diamond in the rough if there ever was one. Star Trek games have always gotten a bad rap as being crappy for the home systems, not the computer. Computer had some really good ones, but the ones on the home consoles were never all that great. This one is pretty awesome because it is kind of like a board game. It's almost like playing Risk. You pick a faction, you can pick the Federation, the Romulans, the Klingons, whatever, and you fight over territories. You can either have the computer do the fights for you, or you could control the ships yourself. It's harder that way. I usually just let the computer do it so I can breeze through the game. But really, really cool game. And if you're a collector, you really need to pick this up. And look who made it. It's frickin' Bethesda, the people that made, Elder Scrolls, people. But then again, they made this one, Star Trek Encounters. It's kind of like Wing Commander with Star Trek ships, but the graphics are really, really, really bad. Especially when you see what Sulu looks like. Oh my god, that doesn't even look human. I don't know what that is. Damn. Controls are pretty crappy, though. So, Encounters, Conquest, yes sir. Star Trek Voyager Elite Force. As you can tell, I'm a big Star Trek fan, more so than Star Wars. I used to be a Star Wars fan, but it lost me because of the prequels were shit. Star Trek Voyager Elite Force. Awesome first-person shooter game that takes place in the Voyager universe, even though that's my least favorite show of all of them. You get to fight the Borg. You get to do all kinds of really cool stuff. The sequel for the PC is a lot better, but they never released that for a home console. Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Another really cool game based on a really bad movie. Star Wars Starfighter. Not bad. Could be better. Street Fighter Alpha Anthology. Yeah, this has Street Fighter Alpha 1, 2, 2 Gold, 3, and Super Gem Fighter. I love me some Gem Fighter. Don't judge me. But yeah, another compilation game I couldn't pass up. Siphon Filter Dark Mirror, another one I bought for a penny. Still sealed. Siphon Filter The Omega Strain. Haven't played it yet because I want to play through the other ones first. And I don't have any of the ones for the PlayStation 1. So I did not realize there were that many Siphon Filter games made for the PS2. There's another one called Logan's Shadow or something. But yeah, those kind of came out of nowhere. I did not know there were 3 of them. Title Legends, another compilation game, has Space Invaders and Zookeeper, Ninja Kids, Space Gun. Yeah, a lot of cool stuff. Space Gun, yeah. Tekken Tag Tournament. This is one of the games I bought when the system first came out. One of my first games I ever owned for it. And back then I was not a big fan of Tekken, and this didn't change my mind. Terminator Dawn of Fate. Yeah, not the greatest game ever made. But, it's Terminator. It has its merits, even though it's not the greatest game ever made. Time Splitters, another one of the launch games. I picked this up for a couple bucks at a local store. Obviously, it's not as good as the ones that followed, but for a starting off point, not bad. Which is where you get Time Splitters 2 and Time Splitters Future Perfect. Time Splitters Future Perfect, one of my favorite games of all time. We would have LAN parties at my house, and we would always play Halo, but I would always manage to sneak in some Time Splitters for people that weren't familiar with it, and good times were had by all. Tokobot Plus, Mysteries of the Karakuri, sorry. Another game I got for a penny from that one dude, although I did open this one because it had a weird extra instruction book that came wrapped around it, and I just wanted to get it. It took up too much space on the shelf, so I opened it up so I can stick it in there. Haven't played it yet, but it does look like an action game. Maybe some puzzle stuff. Turok Evolution. Yeah. Twisted Metal Black, one of my favorite games of all time. The first time I played through this game, and they played Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones over the end credits, I lost my shit. I was just kind of like, that is the perfect song for this game because this game is so freaking twisted. Awesome game, though. Combat. I love Twisted Metal series. Twisted Metal 2 was my favorite, and then this came out, and it was just kind of like mind blown. Unreal Tournament, pretty cool action or first-person game. Wipeout Fusion, played one of these, you played them all. Pretty cool though. racing game, futuristic, hover cars. X-Men Legends, which is a dungeon crawler with X-Men characters. Pretty awesome. And then there's this, Zathura. This is a bad movie-based game, but I got it for $1, so don't judge me. So, that is my PlayStation 2 collection. Yeah, there's a lot. And I'm still finding more and more stuff every time I go out. Can't get enough of it. Awesome. So, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or concerns or whatever, leave it in the comments section below. I'm happy to hear from you. If there's any ideas you have for shows, games you want me to review, topics you want me to discuss in the video game world, let me know. I look forward to hearing from people. So, this is Chris, the Old S Retro Gamer, signing off.